Okay, today we'll discuss about the second stage of the compilation of hadith. In previous classes, we have discussed about compilation during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we have discussed about compilation uh, during the time of Sahaba after the demise of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today, inshallah, we will discuss about compilation during the second Islamic century. Second Islamic century, that is called the age of Tabain and their students, you may say successors of Sahaba. And the time period of this stage is from 101 till 200 AH. During this time, or even before this, or during even during the time of Sahaba Ikram, different centers of learning they emerged. Wherever Sahaba Ikram they traveled and settled down, over there a center of learning emerged. In the same way, Tabain they settled in different cities, and in each and every city where a Sahabi or after him a Tabai settled down and narrated ahadith. So that was a center of learning. So during this time period, a large numbers of tradition of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam they were preserved, and we see that during this time, as Khilafat expanded and Islam spread in different parts of the world, including Middle East, India, North Africa. So Islamic Khilafah or Muslims they now expanded on a very large area. So Islam or Muslims they spread in three continents, but an issue which took place that was invention or fabrication of ahadith. Some of the people, the enemies of Islam, some of the Jews or some of the Persians, they started to invent ahadith during this time period. You may say that around 80, around 90 Hijri, some of the people they started inventing ahadith, and around 100 AH, when this stage started, now many of the people they started prevailing or promoting invented ahadith or fabrications or mawzu ahadith by the name of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was a main issue during this stage of compilation, that some of the people, some of the enemies of Islam, they started making fabrications or false ahadith. So when some people they started making false ahadith, one of the caliph, his name was Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he was Umayyad caliph. We see caliphate. Four caliphs, they were the rightly guided caliphs. Hazrat Abu Bakr Razila Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Umar Razila Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Usman Razila Ta'ala anhu, and Hazrat Ali Razila Ta'ala anhu. After that, the first Umayyad caliph, that was Hazrat Muawiyah Razila Ta'ala anhu. And then around for 90 years, they were Umayyad caliphs. So there were 12 caliphs. Among them, one of them was Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz, and he was a very good caliph. His time period is very short, from 99 AH till 101 AH. So during these 2 or 3 years, he did one of the great job, that he ordered some of Hadith scholars, those who were very very famous scholars of that time, that they should compile ahadith. They should compile authentic ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, for the first time on the state level, Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz, the Umayyad Caliph, he started the work of compilation of ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, this name is very important. Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he was the first Caliph who compiled ahadith, or who appointed scholars for compilation of ahadith on the state level. Before that, on the state level, compilation of hadith or preservation of hadith, that was not done. Further, we see that during this time, or even some of the years before that, scholars they had already started composing books about biographical data of the narrators. Biographical data, you know that it is very much important for the authenticity, for the knowledge of the authenticity of the chain of narrators. So before his time period, even before his time period, like maybe 10, 15, or 20 years before this time period, some of the people, some of the scholars, individually they had started this work. They had started composing books about biographical data, about the lives of the narrators. This branch of knowledge is called Asma'ur Rijal. So Asmaul Rijal book had already been started by some of the Hadith scholars. So this work was already going on. Now it was easier for scholars to check the biographical data and to conclude that whether a person in that chain of narrator, whether a Ravi or a narrator, whether he is authentic, trustworthy or not. So it was possible to work on the authenticity of hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We see that it is the time period when hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam they were collected systematically and they were arranged in text volumes and their authenticity was checked. So these are the features of hadith collection during this era that hadith they were collected on the state level for the first time, their authenticity was checked, narrators were checked whether they are authentic or not, and ahadith they were systematically collected by muhaddisin or hadith scholars. We see that the first person or the first regular compiler who for the first time compiled ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a systematic way, his name was Muhammad ibn Shihab az-Zuhri. This name is very much important. You need to memorize this name and you need to write in your answers when a question is about this time period, the second stage of compilation. So Muhammad ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, he was the first regular compiler and he is the most authentic or distinguished compiler of ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was ordered by Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Actually, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, as I mentioned earlier, Umar bin Abdul Aziz he appointed Muhammad ibn Shihab az-Zuhri on a state level research work that he was made responsible to compile authentic ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was given this duty by Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz that he has to compile authentic ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and remove all the ahadith which are fabricated or which are like zaif ahadith. So for the first time now this responsibility was given to one of the hadith scholars. So that's why this name is important. Another important person who was given the responsibility by Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz, his name was Abu Bakr ibn al-Hazm. Abu Bakr ibn al-Hazm, he was a governor and governor of Hijaz. He was also ordered by Umar bin Abdul Aziz that he was ordered to collect ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he ordered Abu Bakr ibn Hazm that he should collect all authentic ahadith which are available and send all these ahadith to Khalifa in Damascus. Damascus was the capital of Muslim Khilafah or state at that time. Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he wrote a letter to Abu Bakr ibn Hazm. He said, "Ki whatever sayings of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam can be found, write them down. For I fear the loss of knowledge and disappearance of the learned man. Do not accept anything but the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, and people should make knowledge public." So he ordered that nobody should keep his knowledge secret. Most importantly, if that is the knowledge of hadith, so the person should make this knowledge public. Before this time, people, muhaddisin or like tabain or the students of Sahaba, they would keep their knowledge maybe in their own books, and their books they were not publicly published. For the first time, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he ordered the people that now they should make their knowledge public and they should send each and everything which is authentic from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, from Sahaba, from Tabain to Khalifa, and in that way he published ahadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that in that way, Ibn Shahab az-Zuhri, he is the first compiler of ahadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who recorded ahadith and also the biographies of the narrators, and he also referred their character and honesty. Just give me a minute. Let me in some people in chat. So I hope it is clear uh, how work was done by Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Okay, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he appointed Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, a hadith scholar, and also ordered Abu Bakr ibn al-Hazm to collect ahadith from Makkah and Medina. Thus, Shihab az-Zuhri, we see that he is the first person who systematically compiled a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam just by the start of the second Islamic century, and he was ordered by Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz, and he not only compiled ahadith but also the biographies of the narrators, and also mentioned the character and honesty of the people, those who were in the chain of narrators. So, you know that it was just the start of the second century. So, maybe two narrators or three narrators were found in the chain. There are no so long chains of the narrators, only two narrators, three narrators, but all of the narrators in the chains they were authenticated by Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri. Now, Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, why he is important? He was a great hadith scholar. He was a very famous hadith scholar of that time, and he was a student of very famous companions, Sahaba Ikram. Abdullah ibn Umar, he was a student of Abdullah ibn Umar. He was also the student of Anas ibn Malik and also Sahal ibn Saad. So he learned from these three prominent Sahaba Ikram, and he also learned a hadith from Tabain, very famous Tabain scholars, Sayyid ibn Musayyab and Mahmud ibn Rabia. So his teachers, they were very famous scholars. So that's why he was also a very famous scholar and very authentic hadith researcher or muhaddis of hadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Further, we can see the importance of Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, that his students they also became very famous hadith scholars. Imam Awza'i, he is very famous student of Muhammad ibn Shahab az-Zuhri. Imam Malik, the one who is the founder of the Maliki school of thought, school of jurisprudence, he is also his student. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, he is also a very famous hadith scholar and faqih. He was also his student. So, Muhammad ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, his name should be remembered while you're talking about collection of ahadith or uh, hadith work during the second Islamic century. Now, coming back to the second person who I mentioned earlier, that Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn al-Hazm, or you can just remember Ibn Hazm. If you can't remember the whole name, you can just mention Ibn Hazm or the previous one, Az-Zuhri. You can just shorten their names, Az-Zuhri and this one, Ibn Hazm. So Ibn Hazm, he was ordered by Umar bin Abdul Aziz that he should write all ahadith from Umrah binti Abdurrahman and Qasim ibn Muhammad. These two names are important. So Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he ordered Ibn Hazm that he should collect all ahadith from Umrah binti Abdurrahman and Qasim ibn Muhammad, and he should send all these ahadith to Khalifa Umar bin Abdul Aziz in Damascus. Ibn Hazm, he was in Medina, and Umrah and Qasim, they were also in Medina. Now the question is that why Umrah and Qasim, why were they important, and who were these people? Umrah binti Abdurrahman, she was a daughter of Abdurrahman ibn Abu Bakr, and she learnt ahadith from Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha, and she was a very famous student of Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha. So that's why Khalifa ordered that all ahadith from Umrah bint Abdul Rahman should be collected. In the same way, Qasim ibn Muhammad, he was the son of Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr Razila Ta'ala anhu, and he was also the nephew of Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha. So both of them, Umrah bint Abdul Rahman and Qasim ibn Muhammad, they were the students of Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha. So that's why Umar bin Abdul Aziz, the Umayyad Caliph, he ordered Ibn Hazm, the governor of Makkah, that he should collect all ahadith from Umrah ibn Abdul Rahman and Qasim ibn Muhammad, so that hadith knowledge from Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha should be saved. And he ordered that all of these ahadith should be collected and sent to Damascus, the capital. And then he made copies of these ahadith and he spread all these ahadith in the whole Islamic caliphate. Just give me a minute, let me see some people in the waiting room. So I hope all this is clear. Okay. After that, some of the important names you can mention in your answer, they're also from this time period, the second Islamic century. A few of the names you can mention, no need to go in much detail. One of them was Ibn Juraj. His name was Abdul Malik ibn Juraj. He was from Makkah and he made a book, Jami ibn Juraj, in 150 Hijri. Another important name is Imam Awza'i, and he compiled his book, Jami Imam Awza'i. He was from Syria. Then Ma'amar ibn Rashid, he is a very famous Faqih jurisprudent scholar as well. He was from Yemen. And then Sufyan Sauri, he was from Kufa. And Imam Muhammad ibn Salama, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Imam Yusuf, Imam Muhammad, these two, they were the students of Imam Abu Hanifa. So all of these people, they collected ahadith, or Imam Yusuf and Imam Muhammad, in their fiqh work, also ahadith, they were included. So they were compiled by their students. So during this time period, these were the famous people who work on ahadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they compile ahadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Before moving forward, let me briefly recall that we are talking about the compilation of hadith during the second Islamic century. A question can be like that: write an account of the compilation of hadith during the time of the successors, or during the time of Tabain, or maybe during the second Islamic century. A question can be like that. So I mentioned earlier that during this time period, the most famous hadith scholar, that was Ibn Shahab az-Zuhri, and then I mentioned Ibn Hazm, and then a few of them, their details are not needed. Now coming to the third important personality during this time period, that was Imam Malik, and he had a very famous book that's called Muwatta Imam Malik. So Muwatta Imam Malik, that is a very famous hadith book. This was also compiled during the second Islamic century. And he was the most famous person after Imam Zuhri, though there was a gap in between them. But first, in the start of this century, Imam Zuhri got very famous. But after him, after some time, after his death, Imam Malik, or Malik ibn Anas, he got very famous. And he was a student of Imam Zuhri and Imam Nafi as well. And Imam Nafi is famous because he was a student of Abdullah ibn Umar. And he has quoted many ahadith, he has narrated many ahadith just from two or three narrators. Like he narrated, Imam Malik narrated from Nafi, Nafi narrated from Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abdullah ibn Umar, he narrated from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this chain is called the golden chain. So many of the ahadith in Muwatta Imam Malik, they are famous for being the golden chain or the most authentic chain. So that chain included Imam Malik narrated from Nafi from Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abdullah ibn Umar from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm repeating again that the golden chain of hadith, the most authentic hadith, they are narrated from Imam Malik in Muwatta Imam Malik, his book Muwatta Imam Malik. And that chain included Imam Malik narrated from Imam Nafi. He narrated from Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abdullah ibn Umar narrated from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So see, only two narrators are in between, and all of them they are authentic. They are hadith scholars, and they are the most prominent people in hadith narration. So that's why many of ahadith in Muwatta Imam Malik, they are the most authentic ahadith. Muwatta even mean the very clear path. He made the name of this book Muwatta to show that his hadith work are basically for making the path clear from all the fabrications or all zaif ahadith, they were removed. Now Imam Malik, why is he important? He is important because he did a lot of research work and he learned from many teachers, like 900 teachers they are mentioned in his biography, that he learned from 900 teachers or even more than that. And he traveled to Hijaz, Syria, Iraq, Palestine, Misr, Africa, and many parts of the world. And then he compiled Muwatta, and in Muwatta he included 1700 ahadith, and he wrote this book from 130 till 141 AH during this time period. In this hadith work, you can see the number of hadith, their categories. 600 they are marfu, and other even they are mentioned. But most of the hadiths they are very much authentic. And his students are also very famous. You can see the names. Imam Shafi'i, very famous scholar of Islamic jurisprudence. He was also one of the students. Imam Muhammad, he was his student, and some other important hadith scholars. They were students of Imam Malik. Further, we see that during this time period, the second Islamic century, a few other important works, individual works, we can see, like Abdurrahman bin Aid, he recorded ahadith of Muaz ibn Jabal, who was a very famous Sahabi of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Abu Kilaba, his name is very famous. He learnt many ahadith and made great volumes of hadith work. Further, we say Urwa ibn Zubair. Urwa ibn Zubair, he was a very famous student of Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha. So he compiled hadith of Prophet Sallallahu from Hazrat Aisha Razila Ta'ala anha and others as well. And you can mention Abdul Rahman ibn Abdullah. He was the son of Abdullah ibn Masud, very famous Sahabi, and Abu Bakr ibn Hazm, as I mentioned earlier. So, all these names, all these details you can mention in your answers when there's a question about collection of ahadith during the second Islamic century. So, I hope this answer is clear. I hope all the things are clear. Now, moving towards the third Islamic century. Okay, that's fine. If you have a question, you can ask me by WhatsApp, and inshallah, I will take your questions. After this meeting will end, there will be a 10 minutes break, and then I will start another meeting, and that will continue for 20 minutes. So, if you have any questions, you can send me during the break. I will answer your questions by the start of the next meeting, inshallah. Now, coming to the third stage of the compilation of hadith, it is called the followers of the successors, or successors of the successors, you may say, or followers of the followers of Sahaba. In that way, question can be sometimes they make words tricky so that student would be confused, or to check the knowledge of a student. So tabain and taba tabain can be, or you may say followers taba tabain and their students, or successors of the successor, you may say, or followers of the followers. So the words can be different, but basically they are talking about the third stage of Hadith compilation, or even the third Islamic century. you may say third Islamic century. So this time period is from 200 till 300 after Hijri. This time period is famous because during this time period, critical research was done on ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know very well that every hadith has two parts, sanad and matan. So this critical research, it was done on both the parts, sanad also and matan also. For sanad, rules were made which were called usulur riwayat, or rules for the justification of uh, chain of narrators, or rules of narration, you may say. And for checking the text of a hadith, matan of a hadith, usulud dirayat, they were established. Usulud dirayat means logical rules, which are based on logic and analytical reasoning. And by these rules, text of a hadith is checked. So this research and critical research was done in mostly in the third Islamic century, and rules were made to check sanad and matan. So that was the first thing which was done during this time period. Furthermore, the second thing which was done during the third Islamic century, that ahadith, they were divided into different branches of Islamic law. Islamic law, it was divided into different branches, and ahadith, they were also segregated in these branches, like laws related to the family matters, laws related to the crime, you may say, or laws related to the international affairs matters. So, in that way, Islamic law was divided into different branches, or maybe the laws related to trade and economic activities. And ahadith were also segregated in that way. So, that was a second thing which was done during this time period. Another thing, the third thing which was done during the third stage of compilation, that reports of the companions, they were segregated from ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And a specific term like asarus sahaba, this was introduced for narrations from Sahaba Ikram. Before that, ahadiths were mixed. Like even many of the things narrated from Sahaba, they were also considered ahadiths because Sahaba they narrated from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But now in this time period, those Sahaba who had not mentioned clearly that they are saying from their own, or they are narrating from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so they were separated. And Asarus Sahaba and ahadiths of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they were segregated. Furthermore, authentic ahadith and weak ahadith, they were segregated, and many of the narrators they made different chapters for Sahih ahadith and different chapters for weak ahadith, and elaborated rules they were framed, canons or rules or laws or rules and regulations they were set to distinguish a false hadith from authentic ahadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all these developments they happened during this time period. Furthermore, chain of narrators they were verified, and date of births, the places they lived, or each and every detail which is seen in the rules of sanad, all of these details they were systematically arranged, they were verified, deep research was done, and in that way ahadith which were ambiguous or which had weak narrators, they were classified separately. So all these things they were during this time. And furthermore, categories of ahadith they were divided, like sahih ahadith, Hasan ahadith, and Zaif ahadith, they were classified. Mawzu'at, though we say that is the type of hadith, but they consider that mawzu'at, they are fabrications. They are not the ahadith of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, Sahih, we'll discuss in detail that it is sound hadith, which is reliable, the chain is uninterrupted, and text does not contradict Islamic law, Quran, the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ, and beliefs of the Muslims. So, all these are the qualities of a Sahih Hadith. In the same way, Hassan Hadith, though they were less authentic because of maybe memory issues or maybe some other issues. So all these things they were done during this time period. And Zaif Ahadith, which has serious criticism by the Hadith scholars. So all these things they were done during this time period. Many of the Hadith scholars they emerged, they did great research, they compiled many Ahadith books, but six books they got very famous during this time period. One of the famous book that you know all very well, that is Sahih Bukhari by Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari. He is the very famous, the most famous Hadith scholar of this stage, the third Islamic century. Then Muslim bin Kushari, his book is also called Sahih Muslim. Then Ibn Majah, his book is called Sunan Ibn Majah. Then At-Tirmizi, his book is Jami At-Tirmizi. And then An-Nisai, his book is Sunan al-Nisai. And Abu Dawud, his book is Sunan Abi Dawud. So these were famous hadith scholars who compiled ahadith more authentically during this time period, and they got very famous for their hadith work. Further, inshallah, we'll study in detail about these six hadith scholars. But now I'm going. I'm like giving a break for of 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I will start another meeting, and that will continue from 20 to 25 minutes, inshallah. And in that, we will discuss about six authentic books and their compilers in detail, inshallah. Okay, I will send you a link after 10 minutes, inshallah. So if you have any question, you can WhatsApp me during this time period.